What is up, everyone? JD here. I hope you're all doing well today. Apologies for the fan in the background. It's a little warm here still, and I don't want to sweat to death out here just to record this video for you guys. I just realized I needed to scoot over. So, really excited today to bring you another episode of EDC Walk and Talk. Today, I'm going to be talking about a couple of different things. First and foremost, I wanted to talk a little bit about some knife modding. So hopefully you all have at least seen the video where I picked up a DC power supply and I started getting back into anodizing a little bit. As you can see here, this is the Demco AD 20.5 with the Knife Center exclusive 3V steel with a beautiful stone wash on it. The steel is holding up really well, hasn't dulled down on me yet, but again, use it. End of the day, it's kind of just therapeutic. Strop it up just a little bit, make sure that everything's still working well. Eventually I'll probably put my own edge on it, but as long as that factory edge, which is really well done, holds up, I am game for trying to make it last. These are the original GOAT scales. They have aluminum or titanium. These are the obviously titanium scales because I anodized them. These are the shark's teeth. I think there's a couple of videos where I kept saying shark bite. These are the shark's teeth, which I think goes well with the theme of the shark lock. And this is the clip point, but I do have a shark's foot blade that is coated over there as well. It has the jimped back spacer, which I really like. I think that came out really nicely. I got it pretty close to matching the Lynch Northwest deep carry pocket clip that came like that. It is the fade anodize that they do, so I wanted to try that myself, and I think it came out pretty good. You can even see it on the inside through the knife itself, so it came out pretty cool. I'm very happy with it, but hopefully you saw that video. I have a video that I did with the bug out scales where I used the 9-volt batteries. I think it was 3 of them, and you can tell the difference here. So this was 3 9-volt batteries versus doing this. I had to polish this by hand, but this was 24 volts. So a little bit lower voltage. What I'm learning with anodizing is the lower the voltage, the darker the color. So at 9 volts it was kind of like, I don't really have anything, well, here you go, it was kind of like this brass color here, or this bronze color here. And then when you got up to 18 volts, when you got up to 18 volts, it started to get more like this purplish color. So the deep colors at the lower voltages, and then when you got up over 32, I think this is 32 volts, you can see the difference in the colorway and how that's working. And you know, I just kind of had to figure that out on my own. But one of the opportunities I think that I have is to start making my own scales. I've worked with really nice people, really great people, but the problem is others discover them as you start to answer the question, where did you get those scales? And then the people that you find that do good work, really friendly people, just get overwhelmed and super busy, and that sometimes equates to missing messages in the inbox, a little harder to work with because you can't really get a hold of them to talk about that. So one of the things that I'm going to try to do is I picked up, and I don't want to show it because I want to surprise folks with what I picked and what I'm going to be doing. But what I want to do is start making some of my own fat carbon scales. The first thing I'm going to say is I didn't realize how small the fat carbon scales are, and how you have to be very creative with how you lay the scales on top of that fat carbon if you want to work with it. So if you have like a larger knife, say like you were like my Demco here, if you were trying to work with this, you would want to get this as tight as you could up to the top corner and then snug this up so you're kind of laying like that. And then when you would get to the other scale, you would have to kind of lay it almost contoured to that, or try to figure out a way to lay it on the other sheet. So the sheets are kind of small, and they're a little bit thinner than I realized as well. I didn't realize there's not much material that's been taken off here to make the scale. But anyway, the reason I bring that up, if anyone out there, and I'm going to reach out to a couple people, has any tips or suggestions for tools that would make it easier. I know I'm going to get a tabletop sander because I want to be able to sand it down. I know the grits of paper that I need to use to get the fine finish. I was actually talking to another person that makes the scales because I was talking about these really fine scratches that show up on the dark matter. So he told me what to do, and I just haven't had the time to work on that. Really hard to get this to show up here today. I think you might be able to see a little bit there. So just a little bit of blemishing on the scales themselves that were done on this one, but you really don't see that on the other scales that I have from the same person. They came out really nice, and I think that's because they probably worked from this side out. Whereas I think what may have happened with this one is because it's nested, they probably didn't go down enough. And you know, I imagine after seeing the scale and how much material or how much little a material there is to work with, I imagine that's got to be super tough. But anyway, what tips or suggestions do you have for me, or tricks or anything if you've made the scales? I'm going to start with stuff that's just flat. I don't want to get into the nested because I know that's probably going to require investing in some tools that I don't want to go hog wild on. So I'm going to pick up the tabletop sander because I can use that for other projects, wood projects and things of that nature on my own. So it's not really that difficult of an investment to swallow. Because, you know, I'm not going to be making scales all the time. I just want to make some for some of my own knives and, you know, see how I do and how they come out. But if you have any tips, suggestions, tricks, tools to look at, anything that I can do outside of looking at YouTube videos like what I did with the anodizing, and I still ended up having to learn some stuff on my own anyway, let me know. I'd love to know. Now, the other thing that I kind of wanted to talk about, and I'm going to move these out of here while we're talking, is I want to talk about warranty experiences, okay? So I've done videos on this before, and I probably am going to do one specifically about the manufacturer that I'm dealing with right now, because I have worked with Benchmade and gotten my knife back in 2 weeks for an Omega spring. I have worked with Case now, just got this one back 2 weeks. I was able to go online, fill out a warranty claim paper, and I got that knife back in 2 weeks. Now this knife here is not a knife that I've had to send in for warranty, but I had an Omega spring break on my Deca. Hogue got it back within 3 weeks. So you're looking at 2 weeks, just under 3 weeks. It was more like 2.5 weeks. Well, I even had, I don't even have one out here. One sec. Unfortunately, both my QSPs are upstairs. So my Qvist variant PE2 is going to represent my experience with QSP. So my Gannett I couldn't get it centered, and you know, it was driving me nuts. I wasn't sure if like some of the holes were off a little bit for the hardware to kind of secure it together, because those can shift and cause the blade to move, and if it's not drilled at the same spot, that would be why I would be running into that issue. So I contacted them and told them, like, I've tried to adjust this. I'm like 3 or 4 times in, I think, and they sent me the paperwork. I sent it to them. They told me because they only pick up once a week for warranty claims because they don't get enough, which is a really good sign, I think, when you don't have enough warranty volume to justify picking up from your PO box but once a week. They told me it was going to be slow. So it was about a week and a half from where I mailed it to where they told me that they got it from the PO box and they were going to start working on it. Then they emailed me about a week later and let me know the blade somehow had gotten warped through the heat treat process and it wasn't caught in the QC process. They apologized and they sent me a brand new knife. All that took about 4 weeks. Not too bad considering, it's an overseas knife. It is not like the American made knives, right? You're looking at a little bit longer of a repair time. Fast forward to my Going Gear box that came in last week. In the Going Gear box, and I'm so discouraged at this point. I'm not even going to do the Going Gear box this month. I had already canceled the subscription because to me it was only like 2.5 knives out of the 6 boxes. And I only say that because I like the Kershaw that they sent, but it just really, to me, wasn't really hitting on the knives that I thought were exciting or interesting. Having said that, the one prior to this box from Going Gear had a penguin in it, which is a pretty good deal considering I actually liked all the gear that was in that box. Well, this month, if you've watched other channels and if you've watched their Going Gear unboxing, it came with a Kaiser Assassin. And I'm starting to have like a bittersweet relationship with Kaiser. So I've had 3 or 4 Kaiser sheepdogs. All of them were flawless, immaculate, centered, perfect action. Love them. I still have my 10V Blade HQ exclusive variant that I carry and rotate in pretty often, at least a couple times a month, and it's probably a knife that I'll never get rid of because I just really like it. It's super unique. Even if I only carry it once a month, or whatnot, I probably would keep that because I really like that one. I have the mini sheepdog that I use for pocket organizers and 5th pocket carry. I like that knife as well. Currently, I only have like a handful of minis. I have the Runt 5 and the mini sheepdog, and I think that's about it as far as like really tiny knives. And so I like that one. Great action, really well made. So I was like, all right, Kaiser is kind of getting my attention, so I picked up a Kaiser original. It was a horrible experience. It was one of the worst knives I've ever picked up. It would not stay centered. The pivot would back out. It had horrendous lock stick. Like, it would pop and you could hear it across the room. It would pop so bad. To keep the pivot from backing out, I tried to Loctite 3 different times. I left it 1 night, then the next time I left it 2 nights, the third time I left it 4 nights, and the stupid pivot kept backing out. I would clean and reapply the medium Loctite, and I've never had that issue with medium Loctite on any other knife where the pivot backed out and I put it on. After 1 night, that usually holds and keeps it from backing out. So I had to tighten it to the point where it was a little like you had to put some wrist into it to close it, but it would still move pretty fluid. But in the aluminum scales, you would feel the bearings tracking. Like you could feel they were notchy and bumpy, and the knife was riding across it because it was just too tight. So I ended up just letting it go. Full disclosure, like, I was having the issues with it. Person didn't care. They said they would deal with the problems. I never heard anything else, so I'm assuming, they either kept it or sold it or fixed it or claimed it with Kaiser or whatever they did. So people were telling me that I just had bad luck. They were loving theirs. It was the best knife that they've ever handled, like the greatest knife on earth. It was amazing. Like, people were just singing the praise to me. So I was like, okay, the black didn't work. I went ahead and picked up the green. Damn if the green wasn't the same thing. It was lock stick. It was popping. You could hear it across the room. Now, it came centered, and it came with really good action, and it was a little bit better than the black. The green was actually not, you couldn't feel the bearings on it, it was pretty smooth, but the lock stick was really bad. And then after a couple days, it started to develop lock rock. So I sent that shit back. I was just done. I was over it. I was done. So people were like, man, you just got really unlucky twice. I was like, fine. I'm not buying a third original, but I've always wanted a beg lighter. And White Mountain Knives had an exclusive. I picked it up, and it was great. It was phenomenal. Never had an issue. I had it for a couple months, but it just wasn't getting carried enough. So somebody asked me if I'd be willing to let it go, so I'll let it go. But it was a great knife, man. It completely refreshed my attitude towards Kaiser, because I was like, it has enough people, or Kaiser has enough people saying, hey, you just got unlucky twice. Like, as bad as those odds are, and I was like, okay, my sheepdogs are good, the beg lighter was good, I'm good, I'm happy. So along came the drop bear, and I've had this for 2 weeks now. And it's not a button lock. I think my issue with Kaiser is their button lock. They need to get that QC process locked down, because this is awesome. And it's hard. It's not easy to just come out and make a crossbar lock knife that feels and functions good, but it's built well. You know, it stays centered. Pivots aren't backing out on the aluminum scales. And this is an adjustable Omega spring, which is pretty new, right? There's no one else in the game, to my knowledge, that's doing that. And I love this little knife. It is a great little knife. The banter, where is my, here it is a little bit smaller, and the bug out a little bit bigger. To me, they're two completely different knives. And then, you know, the same could be said about the Demco. So this is kind of in between the banter and the bug out. It is like on the cusp of being like one of the smallest knives that I will carry. It cannot be a summer carry. It's just, it weighs more than the bug out. You know, it just weighs a bit too much for summer shorts. Not to say regular shorts, but like, you know, athletic shorts. So what's wrong with this knife? It has a little bit of lock stick. You saw just then, sometimes the lock doesn't catch and lock in place. And the worst thing is this knife, this freaking knife is way off center. And you would think, all right, do the same thing that you do with any knife. Loosen it, tighten it, adjust it. All right, I've done that like 3 times. So I reached out to Kaiser. I'm like, hey, not quite sure what is going on with this knife. I cannot get it centered. So I sent the information. I sent a picture. They came back and they were like, we'll send you a new detent. Just send $5 for shipping. What the fuck is a detent on a button lock knife gonna do for me? Like, I don't even mind if you need to send me a part to correct this, but what the hell are you saying you're gonna send? So here's the thing. I tried again today. I was even like, all right, well, let me check the scales. I was laying it on, you know, a level. I mean, not a level. I was trying to set it on an angle, something that I knew that was flush, so I could check to see if maybe something happened along the way. I mean, the box is immaculate. It wasn't smushed or anything. And scales were fine. So then I started looking at it more closely. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to bring a light up to my hand so you can see the knife is perfectly centered at the tip of the blade. You see it here? The lines are perfect. And then when you come down to the bottom part of the blade, let me do it this way. You see how it's out of center. But you can see here, I think I have this up too high. Hang on, let me get to the lower light. There you go. You can see here, centered. Even here, it's centered. But when you get down to the tip, it's off center. This blade, during the heat treat, has gotten warped. So my first issue is that this somehow made it through QC QA. And I mean, this is really, really noticeable. It's not like it's close and somebody could miss it, but it is way out of center. I've been going back and forth with Kaiser's warranty company or warranty department for a week, and now they're not responding to me. And I think now at this point, because of that experience, I think I'm done with Kaiser. Because how you as a company back your product is important to me as a consumer that is spending a fair amount of money in this hobby. And to me, that is unacceptable. It'd be one thing, I could come on here like I did with the case. I was like, man, this lock stick is horrible. It's got almost dangerous blade lash, and I'm not real happy with the edge on this. I contacted them. I listed out the problems. They asked me to take a picture and video. I did that and sent it to them. They said we reviewed it, send it in. They sent this knife back. All of that happened inside of 2 weeks. And the knife is great. It is not flawless, but it is great. It is what I would have expected from a first-time manufactured folder. Kaiser's been making knives for a long time, and there is a lot of reviewers out there, and a lot of viewers that watch my channel that tell me Kaiser is great. That people are tired of Civivi, and they like what Kaiser's doing better, and that Kaiser's making better knives. I'm telling you, I've had 3 bum examples from Kaiser. I've had great ones with the Sheepdog, the Beglighter, and the Drop Bear. All 3 of my issues have been with their button locks. So Kaiser might have their other knife game locked down, but they do not have their button locked down. And this, even though it is, it's a really proud button too. You kind of hit it a little bit when you're gripping. You hit it a little bit and you can feel it moving, but it's far from perfect. Kaiser still, I've lost faith in Kaiser at this point. And again, if the warranty company would have been like what I dealt with QSP, I wouldn't have cared, right? 4 weeks, 6 weeks, whatever. If you're standing behind your product and you're working to make it right for me, yes, I'd be disappointed that I spent the money and I'm without the knife, but I would have peace of mind knowing that you're working on fixing it to make it right for me, to make it right by me. And Kaiser did that. I mean, QSP did that. Kaiser, I can't even get them to respond. And I can't believe what the hell. And it could be just an employee, right? An employee working in the warranty department. It could be that. But my issue is, when I sent you this picture and you told me you're going to send me a detent, Kaiser's responsible for that. They are hiring this employee to represent them. They need to give better tools or better training or whatever it is that they need to do so that someone like me doesn't feel frustrated because they're not having an educated conversation about what is wrong with this product. So I sent one final email saying that I checked the knife itself and that the blade appears very warped towards the tip because it is very centered with the proper tension at the top of the blade. If I try to move this over to center it, so let's move it over to center it. All right, so now it is centered. You almost can't see. I mean, it's a warped blade. It's the only thing that it can be. I've tried centering this so many times. I've never had this much issue centering it, and that's coming from like too much tension in this backspacer to where I had to like manually adjust the barrels to be even so that I could get that centered. That was a lot of work, but I understood what was wrong and what I needed to do to get this knife centered. That's with you know, a couple Spyderco's coming out of center. Sometimes that happens with their manufacturing plant, but really easy to fix and get centered. Actually, I might need to center this one a little bit more. It looks like it is favoring the show side a tad. Maybe it was just the way it was sitting in my hand, off to the side. Yeah, I think it's because it was off to the side. But anyway, my point being is I've done this so many times and I know what to do to fix it. And, you know, Kaiser's just really pissed me off at this point. Anyway, I wanted to share that experience. I'm actually going to do my experience with Kaiser's warranty video separate, but this was really more me ranting and sharing with you my experience with Kaiser's warranty company. Heaven forbid. And let me know if you've had to submit a claim with Kaiser. How was your experience? Hopefully better than mine. Mine has pissed me off to where I think regardless of what comes out, and I don't think I'm picking it up. Like, if something changes after this video, perhaps if their warranty makes up for it and eventually gets it right, perhaps that might change my perception. But for me, for now, I'm kind of over Kaiser. I'm going to be looking to QSP. I'm going to be looking to Civivi and Syncut and others. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, do me a favor, leave a like. If you have not already subscribed, consider subscribing. If you already have subscribed, thank you for the support. I hope all of you have a fantastic week. Until next time, peace.